All right, let's talk construction. In that complex, high stakes world, what's one of the biggest things that can absolutely derail a project? Change. But, change is inevitable. So the real question is, how do we manage it? Today, we are going to break down one of the most critical and, yeah, often the most costly documents in the entire industry, the change order.
Okay, so take a look at this graph. This visual right here, it says it all, really. This is the fundamental problem in any project. See, early on, when you're still in the design phase, your ability to make a change is really high, and the cost is super low. But as you move down that timeline, pouring concrete, putting up walls, your ability to change things just plummets. And at the same time, the cost to make that change skyrockets. This right here is the danger zone. It's where budgets and timelines go to die.
So, what exactly is a change order? Well, it's not just a casual conversation or a quick email. It is a formal, written order that officially modifies the original contract. And the most important words here are agreed to and signed by all parties. We're talking about the client, the contractor, maybe the architect. It's a legally binding document that says, okay, we're all on board with this shift in scope, cost, or schedule.
Now, we'd all love a project that goes perfectly according to plan, right? But let's be realistic, that almost never happens. Change is just an unavoidable part of the process. So the question isn't if it's going to happen, it's how you're going to handle it when it does. And these changes, they can pop up from just about anywhere. The client might have a sudden flash of brilliance mid-project. The architect might tweak a design. Or, and this happens all the time, the site itself throws you a curveball. You start digging and discover some really funky soil conditions. Any of these things can trigger the need for a change. And this brings us right to the heart of the matter, the real, tangible costs. And believe me, we're not just talking about the price of a few new materials. It's the ripple effects. That's where the true damage really gets done. Okay, let this number sink in for a second. 23.75%. Research shows that, on average, change orders can blow up a project's cost by nearly 24%. And that's after the contract is already signed. That is a massive and usually unplanned hit to the budget.
And what's really fascinating is what this 2020 study tells us. It shows that the cost isn't just about the change itself. No, it's about the chaos that follows. We're talking endless replanning, extra hours for the managers, the soul-crushing work of demolishing something you just built, and that stop-and-start workflow that just kills efficiency. It can even mess with getting paid on time.
So let's break that down even more. This table comes from over 100 industry pros, and it ranks their biggest headaches. Number 1, all that project replanning. Schedules, logistics, budgets, everything gets thrown up in the air. That leads directly to number 2, a huge spike in management effort. Then comes the physical pain, rework and demolition. That's followed by the ultimate productivity killer, work interruption. And finally, it hits the wallet with delays in payments. You see how it works? Each one just feeds the next, creating this awful, vicious cycle. So with all this potential for total chaos, you'd think the industry would have some ironclad process to control it all, right? Well, it tries. But that can introduce its own set of problems. Let's just call it the paperwork paradox. To try and manage all this, many projects have what's called a Change Control Board, or CCB. Think of it as a formal committee. You've got your project team, some experts, customers, sponsors, and they're supposed to be the gatekeepers. Their job is to look at every single change request and decide if it's really worth the disruption. And on paper, the process looks beautiful, right? So simple. A request comes in, the board analyzes the full impact, they give a clear yes or no, and if it's a yes, the change just gets implemented seamlessly. It's supposed to be clean, orderly, and logical. If only it were that easy. And just to add another layer here, there are really 2 main ways this can go. You have the change order, which is that deliberate formal process we just talked about. But for really urgent stuff, there's the Construction Change Directive, or CCD. This is basically an order to do the work now, we'll figure out the cost and time later. It's great for keeping the project moving, but boy, is it a gamble. It can lead to some major arguments down the road. Which brings us to the million-dollar question. If we have these formal processes, these CCBs and these change orders, why do so many projects still spiral into absolute chaos? Why does that 24% cost overrun still keep happening? What's going wrong? So let's get into our final section and figure out how we can bridge that gap between the process on paper and the messy reality on the ground. This is all about how we can get from chaos to control.
The answer to our question is right here. The whole system breaks down because of friction. We're talking about manual, paper-based processes that create these huge bottlenecks. Critical info gets lost in endless email chains or just goes missing. You have stakeholders who aren't on the same page because of communication gaps, and you can't make good decisions quickly because nobody has access to real-time data. So let's just be blunt about it. The old way is broken. Trying to run a multi-million-dollar project's change management process on a patchwork of spreadsheets, random emails, and a bunch of WhatsApp groups, it's an absolute recipe for disaster. It's slow, it's inefficient, and it's just asking for human error. But here's the solution. And this quote says it all. When you automate these workflows, the impact is immediate and it's dramatic. One report found that automated systems can cut the approval cycle time in half, by 50%. That is not a small improvement. That is a complete game changer. So the path forward is actually crystal clear. To get back in control, you have to centralize all your project data so there is one single source of truth. You need to digitize your workflows to get rid of all those manual bottlenecks. Doing this lets your team make smart decisions in real time, not weeks later when the information is already old. And that brings us perfectly to the sponsor of today's explainer. This explainer was brought to you by Lementai, which is a construction management platform designed to do exactly what we've been talking about this whole time, to take your projects from chaos to control. With Lementai, you can finally get rid of those messy spreadsheets and those chaotic WhatsApp groups. It lets you manage your projects, your finances, and your teams all in one single place. By setting up automated workflows, you can eliminate those really costly approval delays we discussed. All your communication, every single document is centralized, which gives you that single source of truth. So if you're ready to move from chaos to control, you can start for free today at lementai.com.